Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how are you doing today?
Good. I am more responsive to you than the Big Ten is to literally anyone right now, so I guess I'm way ahead of the curve. How are you?
I'm doing good, but I would disagree with you, Tom. The Big Ten has been responsive in that they've called the police on Big Ten parents and had them moved off of their property. So you say they're not responsive. I say they are very responsive in how they treat people who are looking for answers. They were given an answer. The parents were given an answer. That answer was get off our property. So, would you like to apologize? I know that your last apology went wonderful.
Yes, yeah, I am sorry. I thought that the Big Ten was a staggeringly inept organization, um, run by someone who is seemingly grossly unqualified for the position he currently holds, and possibly crippling the organization he is now in charge of for the medium to long term. But I apologize. He did effectively call the police. So there's that. There is that.
As you're talking, I'm just imagining everything Dr. Nick ever said on The Simpsons and applying it to Kevin Warren. It's like, oh, the parents again. It's like, oh, the coroner. I hate that. I'm so sick of that guy. And that's what we have. We have Dr. Kevin as the Big Ten commissioner who got his what I bet one of his degrees on the wall. You know where it's from, Tom. Go ahead and fill it out for me.
Hollywood upstairs commissionering school. Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely.
Perfect. And so that's what we are to that's the hand we have been dealt. So Tom, let's open by talking about the parents protest demonstration in Chicago. We know there weren't as many parents there as maybe we expected based on the letter that was drafted and released by Warren a couple of days prior. And it's not super easy for everybody to just drop things and get to Chicago and be there Friday morning, knowing that you're gonna have to get a hotel Thursday. You may have to take work off Thursday to be there on Friday. Obviously, you have to take Friday off, and so it was gonna be a tough ask for anybody. And I, it really rubs me the wrong way when I see people just not making fun. Yeah, just disregarding what went on because of the numbers and the Chicago Tribune just putting the parents in a bad light or disregarding it because there's only like 25 people there, and these parents are irresponsible for wishing their children to go into COVID battle. And I just didn't really I really didn't like the way they diminished the parents, diminished the cause, diminished the reasoning. And it, it's I bet some parents weren't happy about it either, and I'm wondering how much more of that we're going to see this weekend. But what did you think of I guess, the response from the haters?
Well, there's a certain amount of probably ingratiating yourself with an organization that's based in your hometown that you might view that as, oh, look at me, I'm riding to the rescue. You're welcome, Big Ten. Remember this the next time we ask you for an exclusive. There seemed like there might have been a little bit of that because I mean, let's look at this objectively. Tony, if you made a decision, say that you decided, I'm going to start publishing Michigan Monday on Tuesdays, and I'm going to write about Purdue instead. And you had, you made that decision on a Tuesday, and then by Friday, you had a couple dozen people outside of your home with, signs who had taken the time off of work to drive hundreds of miles to tell you that you were a dope for doing a stupid thing. Would you think, I'm right because there's only a couple dozen people who have taken time off of work, potentially 2 days off of work, to drive hundreds of miles to tell me I'm an idiot? Would that be your takeaway?
Yeah, that's a good point. What I would do in that instance, if there are people on my lawn telling me how stupid I am, I would call up the Chicago Tribune or Yahoo and discuss, like, tell me I'm good. Tell me I'm good at what I do. Tell me that I've been put in a tough situation. Tell me that I was dealt a bad hand. Tell me that anybody would make these same mistakes, even though nobody else is making these same mistakes. Tell me I'm pretty,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course the Chicago Tribune, like, tussling my hair. Yes, you are pretty. You're so pretty. You were dealt a bad hand, and yeah, everybody was. And so you look at how everybody is handling that, and Kevin Warren has continued to stand out in not a good way. And so when you have people, I don't know that anybody is protesting out in Pac-12. I don't think parents are protesting in the SEC with their relatively new commissioner for being allowed to play at this point. So yeah, it was only 25, but hey, it was a couple dozen people wanting answers they couldn't get, haven't been able to get, and these were parents who were asking for, and I wrote about this the other day, asking for some of the same things that the Big Ten teams and programs are asking for. Anything. Proof of life. Let's see Kevin Warren with the newspaper and today's date and let us know that you are actually out there. And Tom, a letter, that could be hoaxed.
Mm-hmm. That could be hoaxed. And yeah, you want to see him with a wall, sitting in front of a wall with today's newspaper framed right behind him. That's what you want to see. Because yeah, this has definitely been his Produce Day column. I mean, this is just not. I don't know why I didn't think of that when I first. It's as if I'm making this all up on the fly. Yeah, it's just, here we are. It's now, is it 2 weeks? Are we now 2 weeks past the day that they canceled? I believe we are.
Yep.
So 2 weeks passed, and we're still waiting on any kind of. I mean, like, there was a letter, and it was still like, I mean, you've written about it. We talked about it last week. Like, yeah, I mean, there were answers in there. I'm not sure that they were, complete answers or totally responsive answers, but there were answers in there. But it's just, this guy is just like, he's hiding. And we should clarify, this is not all on Kevin Warren.
Mm-hmm.
I think there has been enough reporting that Kevin Warren probably was leaning strongly and guiding people in the direction of this, that it's probably a decent amount on Kevin Warren. There are also university presidents who are also hiding behind, they're hiding under their desks waiting for this to go away. And the fact that there has, again, been no answer in 2 weeks on how are you bringing 30,000 students back to campus, and that's okay, but you can't have 85 football players playing in something of a bubble. Like, there has been no answer on that. The answer, of course, on that is, well, we need the money. So, they can't say that. They can't say that part out loud, so therefore there has been no answer. But that's okay. And, this is, I feel like we keep doing the same show because somehow, against all odds, they have not managed to make this at all better in 2 weeks. I cannot fathom how that's possible. And now you're looking at the ACC and the SEC, and they're still plowing ahead. And I'm starting to kind of go, we kept hearing these guys, there's no way they're going to play. You're starting to wonder, like, yeah, they're still going. They did not quit 3 days after the Big Ten did, like a lot of people thought they might, or a week after the Big Ten did, the way a lot of people thought they might. They're still going. Guys, do you notice that they're still going? Like, guys, do you see that? So, yeah. So 2 weeks and counting. Great job, everyone.
Good job. Good effort. I had somebody else asking me about, why aren't we putting more blame on the presidents? And I go back to Jim Delaney. Was he ever at odds with the presidents? Did they ever go like against each other? And it's pretty much whatever Jim Delaney wanted is what happened. He is their, like I explained it on Twitter, they've hired the commissioner to be their consultant. And when you hire a consultant, you usually listen to what they're telling you. And so this is what, when you are also the face of the decision-making process, because who even knows what half these presidents look like, even the students who attend and the fans of those teams may not even know. He is the face of the decision-making process. So yeah, he's going to get that blame, and that's part of the job. And that's why every commissioner in every league gets booed when they're handing out a trophy. And I don't know if Kevin Warren will ever be in a position to hand out a trophy, but when he does, he's going to get booed, and it's going to be loud. And that's one of my main reasons why I don't that's maybe my biggest reason why I don't think winter football will happen, is because he's not ready to hear that boo like in March or April. It'll be no, he's not ready for that yet. It'll have to be like a fully functioning fall season where he'll be like, okay, I can handle it now. We've got money back in the bank. We've got a full slate of games on the Big Ten network. I can stand up and I can take a boo for 45 to 85 seconds, consecutively, as people finally, let their feelings be known, because this will be my first public appearance since I canceled the Big Ten. And you know what? It's been 18 months. It's time. It's time to show my face again. It's time to be out there and be part of the public, and this self-imposed quarantine. No, it's let's get out there and be part. Let the people know that he cares, and he's just like them, and he's one of them. And then yes, 85. What's the over under on the length of the boo then, Tom? Do you think?
The over-under is 0. Here's why. Clock hits triple zeros. Kevin Warren, or someone from the Chicago Tribune, who's to say, calls in a bomb threat. Stadium empties. Okay, games hit 0. Game's official. Stadium empties. Oh, no bomb. Okay, well, I guess we'll just do the trophy presentation in an empty stadium. It'll be the Big Ten's most exciting new tradition.
They didn't cancel the trophy presentation. They just had to postpone it to empty the stadium because of the bomb threat. And
right, yeah.
It is what it is. And so now the parents did their protest in Chicago. People made fun of it. And so then I think there's some portions of the parents who are like, you know what? Let's do it on campus. Let's see what kind of response we can get. Because again, they still have not heard from the Big Ten. Nebraska parents wrote a letter saying, hey, remember us? We have not, we requested a response. At least acknowledge that you received it. You've left us, you've left us on red, maybe. You don't even know if it's been read. And, I get Kevin Warren not looking at his mentions. I wouldn't either, because there's a lot of terrible stuff there. Make you feel real bad about yourself. But when you start to get letters from parents who also make you feel real bad about stuff, it's time to read those letters and think about what those parents are writing, and maybe wonder, gosh, should I respond?
Should I just keep hiding? The answer is always, I should just keep hiding. Yeah, you mentioned the Nebraska letter. The Nebraska letter is very interesting because it's kind of their, they basically had a lawyer essentially write a Freedom of Information Act request, but do it with a much shorter time frame than normal. And we hereby demand, from the letter, we hereby demand that the conference immediately produce all documents related to all, quote, votes, unquote, regarding whether to cancel, postpone, or delay fall sports, including A, the results of all such votes, including how each council member voted, B, all meeting minutes reflecting all such votes, C, all audio and video recordings and transcripts of all meetings at which such votes were cast, D, all conference bylaws and or rules and regulations governing the decision-making process, and E, all assessments, memorandums, studies, scientific data, and any other medical information and or advice considered by the council in the process of making decision-based health concerns not to allow student athletes to play football in fall. And if the documents are not delivered to the undersigned by 12 o'clock p.m. Central on Monday, August 24th, 2020, we will have no choice but to file suit in the United States District Court for the District of Nebraska, seeking documents and asking the court to offer immediate relief. Govern yourself accordingly. Yours very truly, Michael J. Flood, the attorney for the Nebraska Parents Group. And on Monday, August 24th, after that deadline passed, regrettably, our office has not received any communication nor even a phone call from Commissioner Warren or the Big Ten Conference responsive to our legitimate requests for information in our letter dated August 20th, 2020. Our clients believe that transparency in decision-making is not too much to ask when the health of student athletes, their future opportunities, and the very survival of men's and women's sporting programs are at stake. I will meet with these parents and their sons to take the next most appropriate step. It is frustrating to me that the student athletes must, on their own dime, pay to educate professional adults about basic transparency and fairness. It was hard for me to read the very end of that because of the smoke coming off of it from the heat. What's fascinating to me there is lawyering 101 would seem to indicate you just write a response that is, we need more time to get this together. Give us 30 days or give us 45 days to get all this. Because that is a not insubstantial amount of information they're asking to provide. That seems like a very easy, okay, kick the can. So the fact that they didn't write that response means either they just are choosing to ignore it, or they have no intention of ever providing that information. Because if you say 30 days and then you don't provide it in 30 days, then you've got a problem. If they just don't acknowledge it, I guess, then you're you can't say, well, you said you were going to give it to us in 30 days and you haven't given us it in 30 days. But now you're going to the U.S. District Court in Nebraska. I mean, I don't know. I don't know a ton about judicial appointments in the U.S. District Court. I assume that's an appointed position and not an elected position. But I mean, judges, I assume, are probably aware of the general state of the world, and a district court in Nebraska is probably going to be fairly sympathetic to Nebraska football. So I don't know if that's where the Big Ten wants to get. And as soon as you get into court cases, if there's some sort of legal matter, you get into discovery, and that's all. The Big Ten doesn't want any part of that. So this is going to be real interesting to see how this whole thing shakes out, because I don't think there's a great solution here for the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten has just stumbled itself through this whole thing so badly that now they've gotten themselves to the point where there's not a great solution. Like, there was a great solution 2 weeks ago, which is just answer the questions. But that involves a level of accountability that the people in charge don't want to have. So now they've stumbled their way into the point where now there's not a great solution. So good luck, have fun, keep hiding, it'll be great.
Whatever you do, don't poke your head out of the sand, and we'll all be fine. I'm wondering though, like, in that letter, did the attorneys in the original letter specifically state they wanted a response, that they're doing this via the Freedom of Information Act? Because everybody that did it via the Freedom of Information Act at least got a response, I assume. Well, I don't know if they did from the Big Ten, but from the respective schools, that yes, we've received your request. Now we have, and when you do that, they have to acknowledge that they've received your request, and then Tom, what you're saying is like, now please give us time to put all of this stuff together. And for there to be, like, I guess, no response to the parents, because for one, I don't know that it wasn't a Freedom of Information Act, because you're asking the Big Ten, which is, I guess, their own little deal there. But I do wonder, at what point do the parents or all of us turn to the respective schools to find out these votes? And that's what we've done. That's what we're not the only ones on the beat who have requested Freedom of Information Act on the voting and all of that stuff. And I am guessing, like, sort of the way you take the wind out of the sails of a parents' protest by releasing a letter 2 days before. Like, one of the ways to take the wind out of the sails of of all of this is, gosh, just provide some answers and some transparency. And if they're fighting this hard to keep from doing that, that's not a good sign. That tells me that it certainly wasn't unanimous, certainly wasn't, there wasn't a consensus, or there was great discussions on how to go about it, how to postpone it, when to postpone it. And we know the Big Ten is this, basically, it's almost a secret society in that everybody's aligned and you can't see behind the curtains. And if from what we're seeing, like when Nebraska's AD Bill Moose is constantly talking to the media, which is amazing to me. Like, he's telling it like it is, and he's letting you behind the scenes. You see that there is very little unity in the Big Ten right now, and it only took a pandemic to make that happen. But if we get a look behind this curtain to see just how dysfunctional it is, I wonder, as much as not having a season could damage the Big Ten, what if having all of the secrets out in the open? How much will that damage the Big Ten as we approach here in a couple of years a new TV contract and perhaps a new realm of conference expansions or programs moving? Like, it sure seems they don't want people knowing what's going on behind the scenes because it might not be all that pretty.
Well, I think I don't know that it's necessarily that. I think there's a whole lot of university presidents that know that football is a bigger thing than they would like it to be at a lot of these schools. And that's true if you're Illinois or Purdue or Minnesota or, any of these schools. And, if you're the president of Michigan and you have a stadium that holds 100,000 people, so there's a decent amount of, uh, fan interest there, and there's probably a more alumni donations are tied up relative to athletics than you would probably like as an academic. You don't want to tick that piece of your donor base off. And if your coach wanted to play and your athletic director wanted to play and your players wanted to play and your parents wanted to play and you're being the bad guy, you're being the parent here, that's okay. I mean, that's the job. Your job is to be there, but you can't, if you're going to be the person who gets that $1 million worth of salary and benefits, like, okay, that's fine. Guess what? That comes with some responsibilities and some accountability. So, and I think there's probably a lot of people who don't want to because they know there's probably, if hypothetically Illinois or Indiana or Purdue, the president comes out and says, yeah, I voted not to play it. Like, you're going to get some blowback there, and they don't want that blowback. And they may think it's, a bunch of simpleton morons who just, no, I just wanted to watch the football. I don't care about no book learning. That's fine. You're accountable to those people, whether you think they're idiots or not. So sorry about that. I really do wonder when, this has to get resolved at some point. Like, they can't let this linger forever. And you're going to have, at some point, we've got a question about this later, but if the SEC and ACC play, like, at some point, this becomes a major disaster for the Big Ten. If the SEC and ACC and Big 12 are able to play, at what point does this decision get revisited? Are they willing to revisit this decision? Are they willing to admit, like, well, turns out we were wrong. Turns out everyone was right when they said we canceled prematurely. And again, like, let's just reiterate this again. We are not saying absolutely they have to play a season. We're saying it was blindingly stupid to cancel 2 weeks ago when there was no imminent danger that anyone has been able to document or explain. There was no wave of positive tests that suddenly meant it was unsafe to play football on these campuses. It wasn't, not playing football this fall. Like, if that ends up being the decision that people make, that's fine. But canceling 2 weeks ago, that was a dumb thing. And I think they have started to realize it was a dumb thing, and you've started to see leaks out of the Big Ten coming like, hey, it turns out we may not have managed this correctly. Like, oh, really? You think so, doctor? Do you?
Maybe go get a second opinion and see if you can find somebody who says, no, you did it. You did it right. You did. Turns out that your ACL was torn, and it's a good thing that you didn't get out there and try to run around. So we'll see what happens this weekend. Randy Wade is organized, and the Football Parents Association of Ohio State has organized a Saturday morning 11 a.m. demonstration at the rotunda of the Ohio Stadium. Other parents of other Big Ten football programs, Big Ten athletic departments will be doing the same at their own respective campuses. So I'm guessing there'll be more than 25 total when we add it all up. But I am interested to see what this is going to look like on Saturday, because you're not just inviting parents, you're talking about fans who are, right next door. They live all over town, easy drive from pretty much wherever. What that's going to look like, how many people that's going to involve. We talked about, we didn't know what to expect in Chicago. I don't know what to expect here in Columbus, other than maybe like the entire walk up of the sidewalk area leading to the rotunda. Is that just going to be full of people? Is it just going to be the area around the rotunda with maybe 100 people? I have no idea. I know there's going to be plenty of fans there, or at least seeing the talk on Twitter. I have seen possible bad weather, rain and stuff, which could throw a damper literally in all of this, which has me thinking, Tom, the Big Ten is a weather control machine. I'd be interested to look at the rest of the campuses around the Big Ten, and if there's rain scheduled for Friday or for Saturday morning for each of those campuses, then we're going to know how truly diabolical and evil this conference is.
I think over the last couple weeks, we have ruled out at least half of the phrase evil genius when you deal with Big Ten leadership. I don't want to say which one it is, but it's definitely half of that phrase that I think we can safely scratch off as, if they printed that on their business cards, I think you'd be like, I think you're going to need to get these sent back because at least half of this is not
So what are you expecting then at the Horseshoe?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't know if it's raining, like, sure. If it's raining, you might not have very much. It might be a total bust. If it's a decent day and you've got, and this gets a ton of publicity, I think the only thing certain is however many people show up, it's not going to be enough to inspire the Big Ten to say, oh, perhaps we were wrong. You could have 75,000 people out there, and all you would hear from the Big Ten is crickets. And you'd hear people talking about how it wasn't safe to have that many people gathered in one spot. That's the only response. Now, that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. It doesn't mean it's not worth, voicing your concerns. I don't know what it would take at this point to get the Big Ten to revisit its decision. And, I think we're on our way to finding out if the SEC, ACC, Big 12 are really playing, and you've got, we're potentially a week and a few days away from, I think Conference USA or Sun Belt or someone has games next weekend. That's as soon as you see like Sun Belt teams playing, you're gonna be like, what the heck? Because I know already. You look at Texas is holding scrimmages, Miami's holding scrimmages. Like this is either safe or it isn't. One or the other. Someone's right and someone's wrong. And again, I am not an epidemiologist. I'm not the one who's going to tell you who's right and who's wrong. But if Texas is holding scrimmages right now and it's okay, and if Miami's holding scrimmages right now and it's okay, then right now I'm feeling pretty good about my position about a month ago that, hey, this is pretty stupid to be bringing 30,000 students back to campus because you've got 500 positive tests at Alabama in one day, but you're not having problems on the Alabama football team. So if you go back and look, I think so far that's holding up okay. Now, again, this could all change, but right now, as of this moment, the Big Ten president's vote is not looking real great.
No, and I'm sure they'll be pointing to it. Look at North Carolina State. They paused all athletic activities yesterday on Monday due to a little outbreak, and they're a little under 3 weeks from their opener. And you just wonder, like, how, if this happens to a few more teams, does the conference shut it down, or do they do what we've talked about for months now with the Big Ten saying Ohio State doesn't need Rutgers to be able to play? So do teams just get pushed aside until they can? And as every schedule has been built in with this ability to shift and move and replace games, do they dare utilize their protocols and plans and scheduling as intended? Or do they do what the Big Ten did and come up with this awesome, imagine being that poor guy who
Bass, are we talking about a fish? What? Who? What?
This guy's like, I've got this awesome schedule. Yes, I had help with the computer and all that, but I put it together. It does all of this stuff. It compartmentalizes. You can squash all of these and replace them here, and you can take these and put them here, and then everybody's sharing the same bye weeks. It is beautiful. And here you go. It's all done. And then less than a week later, sorry, Jerry, but we're not going to play. And so you can take that schedule and you can just, with it, because we appreciate the effort. Yes, you will still get paid. Oh, by the way, you're now on furlough, but thank you. And we will talk to you maybe next year. Who knows? Maybe we'll get, what there's a rumor we're going to try to play in the winter. So I'll get with you December-ish about a schedule. So don't go too far, but just please get out of my office. And So there you go.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see what. I mean, you've seen proposals floated that seem like they're kind of creeping earlier as things seem like. I think you can see the Big Ten going, crap. I think other conferences might be playing this fall, and the proposals keep kind of creeping a little earlier. Like, what if we started practicing in December? What about if we did it like, right when Thanksgiving break started? Because then the students are gone. Like, you could do that. You know what else you could do? Go back in time 2 weeks when you had all these teams safely ensconced in bubbles, and just let them keep practicing and playing, and not end those and send some people home. Where guess what? You're going back home. You're probably gonna get you have people coming back with stuff that they wouldn't have had if they just stayed safely on campus. But that's this is we all make choices, and the Big Ten has made a choice.
I'm just imagining if the Big Ten was a man, a married man, and just driving home after this decision, how just the silence from the Big Ten's wife, like knowing that he made you were so stupid with your decision, and just the sheer silence and the anger coming from the other side of the cars, like you can just feel it the entire drive home, and like this is not good, this is not good. And if the Big Ten was a married man, they would deserve all of that anger that would come their way. So the Big Ten is now like, gosh, I hope North Carolina State cancels. I hope this cancels. I hope that cancels. Notre Dame paused for a day as they sent students home for 2 weeks. They're back at practice. Alabama has, you mentioned a bunch of their tests, and they're still ongoing. I tend to think like we're just going to accept bubbles. North Carolina State is in a bubble, I think, because they've sent, or North Carolina has sent students home. If we can just get over this hump of this, I tried, my wife does not do sports. And she was basically like, why don't they just, and explain the bubble concept to me for college. And I felt so stupid and dumb, like trying to explain why that can't happen or why that hasn't happened. And it's just like, well, because one side, the wink, wink, and the other side, wink, wink. And then if they did that, it would look bad. And it's so stupid trying to explain why we can't do bubbles. And it's an easy solution, but because we live in a world of make believe, it's like, well, yes, we live in a world of make believe, but we can't acknowledge that we live in a world of make believe. And so instead, no football this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this has been the issue from the beginning, which is we have to keep pretending with this convenient fiction of student athletes, and everyone's no, they're just students who happen to play football, and no, that otherwise we'd have to provide them health insurance. Which, hey, what if we just did that anyway? I mean, and here's the really annoying thing: there are a bunch of places that are doing that. There's a bunch of places that are doing stuff like that, and providing players with. I mean, Ohio State allows players who leave to come back and get the degree anytime. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that Ohio State's doing that would pretty much, allow them to sort of acknowledge, hey, the very obvious truth, what is very plainly obvious to all of us, that you guys are just, a lot of schools and a lot of leagues in the NCAA are all kind of like, well, we have to keep pretending. We have to keep pretending mommy and daddy are still in love, even though, just for the image of the kids, like, yeah. Rip the Band-Aid off, guys. Like, this has been years and years and years, and you just get Mark Emmert trotting out just this absolutely inane, like, oh, we would have done this years ago if not for all the people who are trying to go through the courts. Like, give me a break. Like, the NCAA's responses on all of this are just so inane. And here's the thing: the NCAA, this is a lot like the Kevin Warren university president's conversation. Yes, Kevin Warren has completely botched this and absolutely should be loaded into a trebuchet and fired into the sun, like 100%. That being said, he's doing it at the behest of university president. Yes, the NCAA should be loaded into the same trebuchet and fired into the sun, but they're doing it at the behest of member institutions, because this is what allows member institutions to operate on their current budgets and not have to, that all of the athletic directors and the coaches that are making a lot of money now are doing it because they don't have to pay the labor. So, this is the model that has worked. And if you're in charge in college sports, it's working out great for you. So it's just worth remembering that, yes, there is the NCAA. Yes, there's Kevin Warren. There are also people behind them kind of hiding behind them right now. And they are all benefiting from this as well. And, the blame here does not lay solely with Mark Emmert and Kevin Warren, although it does somewhat. And, that has always been the case. But yeah, just worth reiterating that, just to let you make sure we're all on the same page.
Speaking of make believe and fake, the AP poll was released this week. I have not looked at it other than to see like Ohio State was ranked number 2. I just wanted to mention this. I don't even know if you've looked at it, but I was listening to the radio and people were upset that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 were in there. It was Danny Cannell and Dusty Dvorak on Sirius XM this morning, and they're like, we shouldn't even be talking because they're going to preview. They were going to go through the entire ranking and who's overrated, who's underrated, who's properly rated, and so they get to number 2 Ohio State, and they're like, why are we even talking about teams that aren't playing when we know Clemson, the ACC, and the SEC, and everybody else is playing? It's like, well, they're trying to play right now. I don't see any games actually taking place. So until the games take place, everybody is in the same boat, basically. Like, yeah, the Saturday game days are theoretical at this point. And so I have no problem with Ohio State and any of the Big Ten and Pac-12 schools being in the preseason poll, because you got teams like Tennessee's in it every year, and they shouldn't be. Texas A&M, top 10. Michigan is always in places where they shouldn't be. So I don't see this year being any different. Every year there are teams in it that shouldn't be. And so, yeah, if the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are there for 1 week, I don't really have a huge issue with it.
I'm sorry. Is the criticism that having Big Ten and Pac-10 teams in the poll makes the preseason college football poll something of a pointless exercise? Is that what I'm hearing? I'm not. Because if that's the criticism, well, I think you've come to the correct conclusion, but possibly for the wrong reasons. That's maybe what I'm thinking. I get it. Like, I get, and if the Big Ten teams weren't going to be in the Week 4 college football poll, okay, yeah, that's a legitimate criticism. They're not. Like, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is a stupid, pointless exercise. This is all of these. This is like the preseason award watch list. Like, yes, it's all completely meaningless crap, and it just gives us something to write about. So you have something to read on, July 13th when there's nothing else going on. So, okay, we are a couple weeks out from the season, and now we can all argue, and you can read, and you can message us on Twitter, and you can call your sports radio stations and argue about the fact that Auburn is too underrated and Michigan is overrated and whatever. Like, sure, absolutely, you're absolutely correct, unless you're wrong, and I believe that you are, unless you're right. So yeah, it's college preseason polls are stupid and meaningless. And here's the biggest argument for keeping those teams in. Can you imagine how unbearable it would be if the SEC, if you just had the SEC, ACC, and Big 12 teams, and you had like 7 SEC teams in the top 10? Can you imagine how unbearable the national sports discourse would be? Good Lord. You're welcome, nation. Sincerely, Ohio State football. Look, SEC ain't got no one in the top 2, Paul.
They will. Don't you worry. They'll get there. One of my favorite things every year around, not even like this time, but like a week or two ago, would be getting to my cable guide and seeing that first week of games show up so I can set my DVR. I don't even know if TV schedules have been set yet, which should also be a concern. If you want to, while I vamp here, if you want to go ahead and look at the week 1 schedule to see exactly what it looks like. Like, I don't even know what does week 1 look like. What does, in terms of the TV and who is out there, and what are we looking like on this opening weekend that is coming?
Well, Saturday, August 29th, Austin P versus Central Arkansas, 8 o'clock p.m. ESPN.
How is that possible? How can they
Well,
play and Ohio State cannot?
Austin P is the governors, I think. And Central Arkansas has a purple field, so QED. Here's how you know this is going to be a banger of an opening week. How many Central Arkansas games do you get in the first week of college football? Oh, well, friends, you get 2. Austin P versus Central Arkansas, Saturday, August 29th. Central Arkansas at UAB, Thursday, September 3rd. Bam! This is going to be an incredible, incredible week. There's a lot that is these TV schedules have not been set. Nothing on Saturday, September 5th has been set. I am on lsufootball.net/TV, which is the my preferred TV college football destination. But yeah, there's the only game that's set on that opening weekend, the opening full weekend is Monday, September 7th, which is BYU Navy at 7 o'clock on ESPN on Labor Day night. So, but yeah, there is a ton of TBA on these schedules. Basically nothing is set. And then that's all going to be sorted out. I saw something on Monday evening, and I think that they had the draft of the TV networks had their draft of games. So I'm guessing we're going to have that shortly, but we as of Tuesday afternoon, we do not have that yet.
So every year, the Ohio State Michigan week, that week is drafted first so that Fox can have that. So what does Fox take first now?
Red River.
Yeah, I was going to say Oklahoma, Texas, because they wouldn't have access to the SEC.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the only conference that is split between those two, as far as I know, is the Big 12. So, because Fox's TV deals are with the Big 10, Pac-12, and Big 12. And oh boy, this is not a great year to be running college football for Fox. That's yeah. So yeah, I would guess that Red River would be the first. Who
does Cincinnati open with?
Cincinnati opens with. I think they also open with Austin P. I believe.
I think so.
Austin P is playing a much more significant part in our autumns than we probably anticipated.
Let's go P.
Let's go. They're number 1.
I did solicit some listener questions. I don't think we will probably get to that this week. We can do them on Thursday. How does that work?
Sure.
Does that work? Okay. Good.
Sure.
As we produce on the fly here. But we did actually kind of plan some. We just didn't get to them. So I apologize for that. Tom, you got anything else then before we call it a day?
No, I think we ought to hit stop and get this thing published before anything else changes in the college football world. And then we'll be back on Thursday to tell you all about all of the things that are completely different that the SEC is going to be playing triple headers. Yeah, Alabama's playing 3 games on September 19th. They want to just try and get the season in. So
all 3 against Central Arkansas.
Yeah, no, they yeah, Central Arkansas, Vanderbilt, and Central Arkansas again. They all count as conference games though, because you gotta. I mean, look, this is and when that's 3 wins in SEC play, Tony. That's I mean, they deserve a spot in the college football playoff for sure.
Plus, no part of Arkansas is different from any other part of Arkansas. So whether it's regular Arkansas, whether it's Central, it doesn't matter. It's all very, very Arkansas. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think Fayetteville is actually fairly central in Arkansas, and I think Jonesboro is too. So I think they basically have a Arkansas, an Arkansas State, maybe a middle Arkansas, a central Arkansas, a not too close to the border Arkansas. Yeah, they're all. I think they're all. What if it's all the same school?
Yeah, I don't know. We would never know. I mean, who's going to investigate that? Like, ooh, bombshell. I've been investigating the Arkansas University system. Oh, what'd you find? Actually, don't tell me. I don't even care. So, all right.
If Brett Bielema is not there, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. No, it's not fun. If John L. Smith isn't there, if those 2 guys aren't there, forget it. And who knows? They may be. We still wouldn't know.
That'll get your Austin P hot.
There you go. Well said, Tom. As you always do, you know exactly what to say to get us to end the show. So thank you all for listening. Thank you, though, for those who are watching. Please continue to read Buckeye Scoop. There is Alex Bleitman just dropped his ADEC this morning with a bunch of info there. There's Mark Givler had some stuff yesterday. There is something every day, more than just something. There is everything every day. at Buckeye Scoop, and plenty to read, plenty of podcasts to listen to. Tom, how is the morning show going?
Morning show is great. We had Bill Green on this morning, on Tuesday morning, to talk about, he did a kind of a deep dive on, so what happens if there aren't visits this fall, which is looking increasingly like it's going to be the case because the NCAA just keeps kind of kicking the can 30 days at a time. So right now there's no visits until I believe September 30th, but that may get kicked a little further down the road. So yeah, what happens with specific guys? There was a 5-star player who he said, if there's no visits, Ohio State's in great shape with him. And there was a 5-star player where he said, if there's no visits, Ohio State has no chance with him, even though he's someone that Ohio State has been linked to quite a bit in the previous few weeks. So that was a pretty interesting conversation. You can find the Morning Scoop on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud. You can just search Buckeye Scoop and actually find that and all of our great shows there. And and then and if you want to find a deeper dive on that, he had 13 different players that he wrote up in that format. And that's the bank blog that he posted Sunday night on BuckeyeScoop.com. So that's all worth checking out.
All right. Well said. We will talk to you all here in a couple of days. Have a good one.